Alright, hey Crushing the Meta fans, welcome back to a new deck profile. As you might notice, it's a different voice behind the camera. It's not your d.boy because this time he's in front of the camera. It's me, your lovely Mr. Timely from Vanguard Insider. But I'm not alone because we got company with JJ.
Hey, JJ from Good Games, Mr. Rogers. What's up?
Right.
So we're here today with a very interesting deck profile of one of our best players in the Netherlands, d.boy with his Spike Brothers. As you guys may know, he got third place, second runner-up at Premium BCS in Nancy. And today we're going to look up in his what he did play, how he fared against matches. You might already seen it in another video where he told about his deck and what his opinion was of the tournament and all. But it was a little bit not really that in-depth in detail, so that's what we're going to do today. See why he picked some choices and what his deck. So with further ado, d.boy, take it away. Tell us about your experience and your deck and why what and whatever.
Okay, so I like Premium more than Standards. I myself think that Premium is more skill-based than Standards. That's my opinion. But the thing is, we got only 2 tournaments this year for Premium in Europe. One in London and one in France. The one of London, I didn't get the opportunity to go to that. And for that reason, I wanted to take something that I'm very confident with playing. Which is my GB8 build. At the same time, I wanted to put some standard cards into it as well, but the mechanic of charge doesn't really work with the new mechanics because the 2 decks doesn't really work together. So I had to make a hybrid build, and I took a lot of risk making that build, and I was testing it against different decks, but most decks I tested against were actually the deck of the upcoming meta, like Genesis, like Gold Paladins, a lot of Agro decks. So I didn't really test a lot against NLK, but I expected the meta being a lot of Gyze like NLK decks. So with that in mind, I took my favorite build to the tournament, and I could go to Wars this year, so maybe see you guys there.
We are expecting a lot of you. You must know that.
I could work under
right,
pressure.
JJ?
I'm okay with working under pressure. That's not a problem for me. So should be good. Should be good. All right.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a little bit closer up.
Okay. So as you can see, I have the playmats because yeah, top 8. The playmat is from Pierre Chronicle.
My boy.
So I will do my deck list on the other playmat, but I do like it. I mean, I'm always happy to get more playmats. I hope that sometimes do one for spikes, but I don't think so. Okay, so let's go through the grade 3s. So for my grade 3 lineup, I started up with 4 copies of Juggernaut and 4 copies of Jelly Beans, and then add 1 copy of Giant Star. The thing is, with this deck, you actually want your Siegfried or Juggernaut because they are the cards that give you the force marker. In this situation, I went with Juggernaut because 1, the art is perfect. Second of all, this guy always, I see him in my hand, and with Siegfried I don't. And he's good as a Vanguard and okay as Vanguard because he does give you the force marker. At the same time, you only benefit from having Siegfried if you go first, because of his hit ability. But with me, I'm always unlucky with the dice roll and I go second, and this deck actually benefits from going second because you only need 3 heals to go to the GB8. So that's why Juggernaut at 4. Then you're playing the turbo build, so definitely play 4 copies of Jelly Beans. It's important. This is the card that actually Bushiroad were drunk when they made this. Because this should have never had the deadly name, and that's why you play him. Because he could search up your heals. In the most situations you could just turbo GB8 and then sometimes even go GB8 as a first strike if you go first. Because you have 6 searchers. The problem with this build is there is no way to search up your Juggernaut. And you have your Commander Gary Cannon, which could make the deck more consistent, but still, if you end up with only Jelly Beans in your hand, you have the option to ride into Jelly Beans, or put the Jelly Beans back to your deck, search your heal, and G-assist into a grade 3. But sometimes, you G-assist in another Jelly Beans, because you just put him back to your deck and you reshuffle.
And you play 9 grade 3, so the situation of seeing it's going to be a lot of them.
So that's why you add one Rising, because the Rising is searchable with your Stride Folders, and your Stride Folders is searchable with your Grade 0, which is Mega Trainer. So in the most situations, you could go to Star. Even if you play against Kagero, and they give you, or you give them the damage first, so they could kill your Mega Trainer, you just skip one attack, you don't attack. And then you use your Mega Trainer to search up your Star, because you definitely don't want to be on Beans. He's just 10k, he does nothing, and Star at least do the combo with the Frog Raider, so you get the power.
So, so basically, actually, what you want is the same as the Stride Fighter versus CTB.
Yeah.
But instead, you can find any CTB. You want to find any kind of rugby player.
Yeah, that's basically it. In this situation, you have two stars or two risings that you could go into. You have Supernova, Rising Nova, and you have Giant Star. I like Star more because he's good as a rare guard, and also he gives you a lot of pluses, especially if you go into a Link Joker matchup. He gives you field control, and if you go into like Gyze matchup where the matchup could drag too long, he could give you pluses. So that's why you use Giant Star. In my opinion, it's definitely the best Rising that you could go into. For the Grade 2s, as I said multiple times, if there is an MVP in this deck, would be Mayhem Tiger, but in these kind of decks where you have a huge toolbox and same as Gears, we can't call a card MVP because the whole deck does its job perfectly, and every small card has its, let's say, thing that it does. So Mayhem Tiger is in here because him being on the one force marker, you could attack with him, use the skill, let's say, of the GB8 because you win most of your matches on GB8. He is 19 or 29. Which could hit above anything, even if your opponent gets a trigger, which is a 10k. And because of that, they need a G-Guard or a PG to stop him, and he's just a pain in the ass for your opponents. I mean, in this tournament, I have burned through a hand of 17 cards, 5 Protect markers, 2 PGs. And my opponent was like, how many Mayhem Tigers could you call? You only play 4. And I was like, yes, but I charge him and I put him back to my deck, attack with something else, and then call Spike Bouncer, and the Spike Bouncer could call him back, charge him, put him back to the deck, and go on and on and on. So, talking about Spike Bouncer, yeah, this card is incredible. He is the card that gives you pluses, call, get pluses, but also you could use his second ability to draw a card out of him in the early game if your opponent gives you too much damage, because some people think the way to go against this deck is to give it too much damage, to just rush it. But that's cool by me, because then you could rush them back into the rear guard, don't give them damage, they can't do anything, and you still make your pluses, because call him, activate the skill, call something else, attack the rear guard, and you still draw by his skill, so you're not losing anything. And it's a 10k, that's also good. But yeah, in the GB8 turn and in the early game, this is actually the one behind all the operations. And then I only play 10 Grade 2s. I hate that I have to play only 10 Grade 2s. I think that the Grade 2s in almost every deck give you the option to rush or to hold back. But in this situation I have to, because I play 2 Mega Trainers. And I don't want to G-assist into a Grade 1, but I'm okay to G-assist into a Grade 2. Also, I'm okay to stay in one turn on Grade 1, especially if it's a 8k. Your Panther is your powerhouse, good attack for a high number, and also he has nice interaction with the old mechanic of charge, because he is not charged, but he could leave an empty regular circle behind him, meaning that you could use some of your skills, like Giant Star skill. Going to the Grade 1s, play 13, I don't like 12, because I said G-assisting. 4 copies of the Stride Folder. If I could play more, I would play more, just with the consistency. Also, you stride with him most of the time. You don't want to stride with your Juggernaut. You don't want to stride with your Jelly Beans, because you want to search your heals with your Jelly Beans. And your Star is good as a rear guard, so you don't want to use that as well. So that's why you use him. But having him in the early game is always nice. Also, he's 7k, which makes him good, because sometimes playing against decks that you want to take the damage, you don't want to ride into 8k. That's why this card does a lot of work. As I said, a lot of cards have multiple purposes. That's why they are in this deck. Also, he's SP, so...
The most important part about
The most important part, it's money.
Yep.
It's money.
It's shiny.
Yeah.
Also, another card that gives the deck a lot of consistency, Commander Gary Cannon. If you have him, most of the time put him behind the Vanguard, attack, boost.
Being able to draw 2 cards, filter your deck.
Yeah.
It's very good in a turbo variant.
Yeah,
In a good situation, you get to draw PGs, or your PGs. In a bad situation, it doesn't.
in your GBA turn, he's actually super good. Because you put him normally behind something, you attack with it, your opponent would let that hit, especially at the start of the GB8 turn. And you could put the GB8 skill on him and like put a Mayhem Tiger in front of him. You could charge the Mayhem Tiger build back to your deck. If he hits, it's okay. If he doesn't hit, you could still use the skill of the GB8 because you have 2 skills that GB8. When the GB8 attack himself, you can put it on him, and then when Mayhem Tiger attack himself, you can put it on the Mayhem Tiger, so you're not losing anything. When he goes to your soul, you can put a card from your hand back to your deck, which is normally the card that you want to have in your deck, like a Spike Bouncer, like Mayhem Tiger, cards that do combos. And sometimes you draw them from your drive check. So Commander Gary Cannon is really good. I think that I will keep him at 4 because he gives a lot of consistency. And next card is Wonder Boy. Wow.
Why only 3 actually?
I don't have space for the 4th one because I need to play these 2. Him because of Giant Star, because otherwise the deck will fall because you don't have force markers and you don't have power. So that's why you need to play at least 1 Frog Raider for the 1 game that you have to ride into Giant Star. Tier is too good. I want to play more. I don't have space because Wonder Boy is better than these 2. The thing is, it's definitely one of your best cards in the GB8 turn. You put anything back to your deck. But the thing is, this card saves your ass when you have to damage check 2 heals. Sometimes you damage check heal, and then you damage check another heal, and then you heal the first one because you want to be at more damage than your opponent every time. And that's when your Wonder Boy could put that heal back to your deck so you could GB8 second stride. Otherwise, you could not go second stride GB8. Maybe if you go first, then you G-guard, then put that back. But those are situations that don't really come that often. So Wonder Boy is definitely one of the best cards as the great ones in this deck. You do need him. Going through the trigger lineup, playing of course 4 copies of the Dudley Heal. Yep. I don't know what to say about this. I mean,
it's a really good card. It allows you to counter charge, draw, counter charge, soul charge. It allows you to get into your GBA turns.
It's only important that it's Dudley.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if it was vanilla. It was still that good.
If this card had no skill, if the shield power was 0, if it doesn't give power, I would still play it because it's a heal trigger and it's a Dudley. But actually, it does a lot of work because it does give you the 1 counter charge that you use with your Mega Trainer. So you go your GB8 turn with everything face up because you don't have to use your Spike Bouncer in the early game in the most situations. So yeah, she is definitely important to have in this deck. You need to play out at 4 for consistency, and because you sometimes go GB8 for stride. For crits, yeah, there is one reason. Most of the time, when you attack with your GB8, they no guard that attack. For some reason, because they think you play a lot of draws. You could take these out and play draws. The shield value in the early game is good, but normally you don't guard early game. I don't guard till 5 damage, so that's okay with me. But in the most situations, just because it's a crit, and your GB8 attack will go through. Before that, when you are on grade 1, on grade 2, and you have to attack into the rear guard, the Vanguard, you have to have another rear guard. If it's your starter, still there, or you call something. Why? Because when you attack with your Vanguard and you get a crit, you don't want to give it to the Vanguard. You don't want to push them that hard yet. So that's when you have to give the crit to something else. So remember, you can't just have your Vanguard and attack and hope to God you don't get the crit, because when you get it, you have to give it to the Vanguard, and that's a bad situation that you don't want to go into. If you
having a crit, being able to finish off a game as well, that is also taking a bit too long. If you're not really having much advantage, being able to close out games with quick triggers is usually a pretty good sign in the best of 1 format, I think.
Also, this deck could go aggro because you play a lot of the new stuff with like your powerhouses, and with that you need your crits for your agriest turn to make more damage. For the draw triggers, I play 8 because it's a PG and because it's a turbo build. I still don't understand that a lot of people just give me the damage, they just rush me. But going into my GB8 turn with like 2 damage, it's not that effective, but going into my GB8 with like 5 face-up damage or even 5 face-down damage, I have my tier, counter-charge everything. So yeah, people rush me and it's good. Having him in your hand is not bad. Discard him with a PG or put him back with Commander Gary Cannon, or some of your strides cost a card from your hand, or just call him. I most of the time just call him on the force marker and attack with him.
15 exactly.
Yep. 25 with the GB8 skill. For your starters, I play 2 copies of Mega Trainer for consistency. You need to have 6 searchers in this deck, in my opinion. You can play 7 if you want to take something else, like the Frog Raider or the Tier if you want to, or a Boy, Wonder Boy. But I like the build as it is, and I think that, yeah, did great. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you end up 3rd with it, so.
Yeah, Mega Trainers, you just see them in a lot of situations. They could search up your Frog Raider, they could search up your Wonder Boy, and they could search up your heal triggers. Also the PGs and the NLK matchup. Going through these strides.
Oh yeah. The strides that you might see sometimes. Probably not. But maybe not.
The thing is, your first stride is one of these 3. Most of the time you go to Merendol and you flip the Sea Breeze, and that's good. Because you don't use Counter Blast. If your opponent gives you Counter Blast, then sure, why not? You go into the Agrius. If you want to finish your opponent off on the first stride, you could rush them at the start of the game and then go Agrius and finish them off, because your attacks become very high with this card. But at the same time, Agrius is good because he could also attack into a rear guard. And with that, Agrius draws you an extra card and recall your units, and you keep hitting the rear guards if you're playing against an aggro deck. But most of the time, just because he flips something and he draws you a card. And if you already committed to the field, then it's plus. If you didn't commit to the field, you could always go Merendol, which is good. Agrius becomes your first stride, and if you can't go to the GB8, you don't have enough Counter Blast for your Dirty Piccolo, you go to the second one. That's basically it. Another stride is Merendol. This card does put a lot of work, as you can see from my match versus JJ. You just go into him, you flip something, and you don't have to attack. You could just end your turn. That's why it's good, because it's the only stride in Spike Brothers that could flip before you go to the battle phase. It's not even a Spike Brother card, but the only one that we could use. There is one more, but the problem with that is, I could show it to you. Give me a second. It's another Cray Elemental, but the thing is, he only works if you have Jelly Beans as your Vanguard, as 10k. But the thing with him is, he costs you a Counter Blast, and in the most situations, you don't want to do that. And that's actually this card. It's also good. I thought about putting him in. It's once per turn, you Counter Blast 1. If you're on 10k, you draw a card and you get power. Also, when he hits, you could get a heal from the drop zone back to your hand. So that's good. So this card is good in this deck, but it costs Counter Blast. And if you have the Counter Blast, you mostly go with the Agrius. So that's why I don't really run him in this deck. One Sea Breeze, I always get the feeling when I take this card out, I will regret it. But mostly, you have to flip something with Merendol, and you need to flip Prey Elementals for your tier. So that's why you play Sea Breeze. And he's kind of SP, I think.
What I thought is you flip it with Merendol, like, congratulations, you survived my first try. You didn't die.
I end my turn. Okay, so there are more strides that we could go into, especially Piccolo, because he actually is, if you can't finish with Agrius, and if you don't have enough hand, and if you don't have enough GB to go for your GB8, then you could go to Piccolo or to second Agrius. Piccolo wins you games, it doesn't cost you cards from your hand, and there is a formation that you could do with this deck that's really good with Piccolo for just drawing cards. You attack with Piccolo, and you call 2 Spike Bouncers, and 2 Commander Gary Cannons behind them. You attack with the Spike Bouncers. If they hit, use Commander Gary Cannon skill to draw, and you could always use Spike Bouncer skill to draw, and you already got the counter charge from tier. So that does give you a lot of cards from your hand, and you only lose 1. If you afford to give them the damage while attacking with this. Remember, critical triggers always could give them to the rear guard, to the Viktor if you want to. Yeah, then the big boss.
LRD.
I don't know. I mean, I'm very happy that Bushiroad made this card, but every time that I play this deck, my opponent's looking at me like, you motherfucker. I don't know. I mean, the card is very, very, very powerful. I went into stride into him with having like no cards in my hand and only one lonely draw trigger out there, and you still win the game if your opponent gives you damage, because you have to guard everything. That's why you don't have cards in your hand. So your damage becomes your second hand because of Spike Bouncer and Wonder Boys would put him back. But most of the time, I have never had a game where I had problems while going into him. I mean, maybe one game against Erik because he got Narukami and he G-guarded, but I ended my turn and then I finished, I think, with Viktor on that game. Yeah, because if they stop him, then you don't lose hand, which is okay. But most of the time, that's why people would think to use 2. I don't think that is necessary in this deck. Maybe in this format because of NLK, but yeah, I don't think so. Going to the G-guards, use 1 Desmule, 1 Reggaeton, because they are Elementals, because he fucks with your opponent, letting your opponent attack the Vanguard, as we said in the JJ's deck profile. Reggaeton is good, just discarding a draw, throwing into something, and then using like him to put that card back to your deck, work. And again, Elemental for your tier. Your tier becomes actually countercharge 5 in the most situations. 2 copies of this card. Hecatomb is very good in my opinion, especially because he puts from the soul and the drop zone. He could put all your combo pieces, especially tier, because tier is a great one and you can't put it with Wonder Boy. So that's why he is very important to have in this deck. But mostly, like your powerhouses, your great zeros, even the heal trigger that you discarded from him, you could put it back. Learn from Gear Chronicle. So yeah.
We do everything first and then everybody gets better versions.
Except calling from the deck was actually Spike for the thing. 3 liners for the GB8 on the first stride. You can only use 2 if you want to. If you don't, GB8 has second stride. It's up to you. I've seen people only play 2 in the non-GB8 turbo build, but in my build, I go actually like 30% of my games. If I go first, I do go to GB8 as a first stride, which is just easy peasy because of the consistency that the deck has. That's actually it for the deck.
So once again to this lovely face.
Yeah, really lovely.
So what did you think of the tournament in general? What could you take away from this event? Knowing what you know now from what you experienced, could you say this is the build that you probably would have gone, or would you change it to something else?
I think going into Worlds, I'll definitely change it to something else because the format would also change. I don't know about the NLK matchup because that's an okay matchup for me, but I don't know if we will see at all NLK in there. But at the same time, it's still iffy. It is not a counter deck to NLK or something, but it has a good matchup. Against Agro decks, I have no problem with this deck because they give you damage and then you could get your advantage. Also remember, your Pickerel is a very good card and it does give you a lot of field advantage. So it's okay to get rushed, I guess. There is also Gold Paladin and Royal Paladin, which has a different kind of rush, where the rush is too much in some situations, but that's when you could rush them back. Don't hold back, just rush them back. So I would love to add more grade 2s to the deck, but I would have to think about which grade 1s I have to take out, or take out the second starter, Mega Trainer. So that's the only thing I'm thinking about. I hate playing only 10 grade 2s. So that's about the deck. About the formats, as I said, the format will change when we go towards. We will have a video where me, JJ, and different YouTubers could maybe talk to each other about the upcoming format for Worlds. I would love to do that so I could just have more ideas going into Worlds. It would be my first time, so I'm not that experienced going to Japan as well.
Neither are we, buddy.
No, we're not good enough for this game.
We're terrible players.
No, you're not.
We're just people on the internet rambling and saying that we're good at the game.
Exactly.
So, but for me, Premium is a fun format. I love playing a format where there is like top tier meta deck where it could win everything, and then you come with these kind of builds and you just destroy them. And even more fun when you play like Nova Grapplers or Gear Chronicle or a deck that didn't really get a huge combo, I mean, the huge combo that this deck still have is the Agrius combo, which is better than the Turbo GB8 in my opinion. Or you could go to Bed and Dragger, but that doesn't work in the format when you have fucking NLK in it. Especially not the Turbo NLK that could just go right NLK, you lose.
Yeah. You don't get enough pressure going in?
No. So that's actually my thoughts about the format. Do you have any other questions?
No, but I mean, with the tournament report, we saw in your previous videos, like you gave some feedback into maybe some of the matches. Could you talk about a bit more about those, and why do you think that you might have been able to pull a bit through if you've gotten a bit more information about it?
My matches were actually not really that interesting. The first two rounds I had were a buy card. I enjoyed those two buys a lot. Really, I'm not kidding. Because I had to see a lot of my friends play. I was able to see some of my favorite guys from France play as well. I was able to park the car in the right parking. And I was also able to see my girlfriend play for the first time, so that was also fun. So yeah, that was really cool to get the opportunity to talk to another guys, which also had the buy card, was also interesting. The third match, so it was my first match, I had to face Wesley, which is my friend from the Netherlands. He played Full Moon, and I had a lot of fun playing that game. He gave me hell, he was really good, and I went to my GB8 stride like with only 2 cards in my hand or something, so he did great. But again, I had the damage, so Spike Bouncer did his thing, and I was ending up with more cards in my hand than I started with. So it's good. My third match, I had to play against NLK. For the first time, I had to play against NLK because I only tested once against NLK, and that was a random match on area. So I knew what the card does. I knew what Dark Regular does, but again, the grade 2, I didn't know. I thought it counter charge, but it doesn't.
It doesn't.
So,
unlike our favorite person who played maybe 150 matches against the deck or with the deck, we didn't have that much testing.
None of us.
Not really any of us did, unfortunately. I think if we were better prepared for it, I don't know how the deck would have done. I think what we could probably take away from this whole event is maybe testing more often. Because the matchups are not necessarily based on RNG much, I think you can take away maybe maybe 55%, 40%. You can get a bit of trigger RNG and it can kind of help you. But a lot of it is just a bunch of matchup knowledge. What you can expect your opponent playing.
The thing is, when I went to the tournament, I was thinking I would face NLK, but not this match. Because my fourth match was against NLK, my fifth match was against NLK, my sixth and my seventh match was against. I played like 4 NLKs only in the Swiss rounds, and I was able to go 7-0. I actually 6-0 because the 7th match wasn't played. I went into that match and I had to face Solomon, Maxime Solomon from Solomon Vanguard, a great YouTuber, but he didn't get into the match because he was saying I will not give you information about my deck, and it was a strategy and it did work. So thumbs up for that.
Exactly, because nobody really expected his build what he was going with.
No, but the thing is, sometimes I get annoyed when people just scoop, even in the friendly matches, because I like playing. I'm more of a guy that it's not up to win or lose, it's more like I want to play, I want to see people, and I think that when you play against somebody in Vanguard, you know more about them. Like their character comes, like you could see that in the action that they play. Some people play aggressive, some people just sit, relax, some people explain the skills, some people just don't. So I didn't see that from him because I didn't play against him. It was a smart choice on his part. He didn't want to give him information about my deck. But on the other hand, I have to say it, and I'm sorry about it, but he did watch multiple of my matches, especially playing against NLK. So I don't know, but yeah, it was a good strategy. The second day, I had to face Wesley again, which he played Pale Moon. And the day before, we had like the same room in the hotel. We were putting everything on the table. He was like, I'm gonna rush you if I have Dark Side Princess. And I would be like, yeah, sure, I will give you a Spike Monster back, like 2 Spike Monsters. I would like, no, you would not have any Spike Monsters in your hand. We were just talking about our decks, and I have my deck on the table, and he wasn't even looking. He didn't even took a peek at my deck. So this is a great guy to play against, and we had a lot of fun. Also, you could see the match because John Thunder was able to record that, and we'll also put it on our Facebook group as well. It was a lot of fun. We were having fun. We were laughing. We were having a great time. Then to top 4, I had to face Maxime Solomon again, and his tactic worked because I didn't know that he didn't play any counter charge there, and I thought that the grade 2 could counter charge, but I don't know about that. But the thing is, he played really well. He was able to get a half loop, and I didn't have any PG in my hand. I was able to get my heals, but I thought that I would get at least 1 PG, which 1 PG was enough for me to survive like 2 loops. But I didn't, and that actually cost me the game. I was like having a lot of cards in my hand, and I was doing multiple Commander Gary Cannon hit ability to get my PGs, but I didn't. And also, one of his drive checks, which was on the grade 2, who's grade 3 on my grade 2, he had double crit. And that put me in a very hard situation because I was from 1 damage to like 4 damage because I healed once, and I didn't want to heal. I want to heal my hand. So yeah, it was. I had, but yeah, again he played very well, and his deck build really good. So thumbs up. And then I had to face JJ.
Hello. Hello, friends.
Yeah, you will see our matches.
It was a very interesting one.
Yep.
Not gonna spoil anything. It was a whole lot of interactive gameplay.
To say the very least.
Yeah.
It was very interactive.
I was watching at the sidelines and it was interesting to say it.
Interesting, because I find it very funny that both of our decks were very sort of similar in playstyle in
But
terms
very
of,
different.
but very
Very
different.
similar, but very different.
The problem is my argument about what the difference is between standard and premium, you guys basically ruined it.
Because like both of our decks are equipped to go to GBA whenever we kind of want to. He can do it a lot more consistently with me than I can because he can hard draw them and can search for them. I need to draw into one or keep one in my opening hand if I want to go for that as a win condition.
But I have to get attacked.
Yep.
And if somebody just go right, stride, flip, and turn.
Yeah, exactly.
Then,
Which I did for like 6 times already.
Yeah,
So, it was
so
fun.
yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was very close because JJ actually needed 1 counterblast or a grade 3 in his hand, and if he did that, then I would have lost or 2 cards less in my hand, and that would put me in a situation where I
You
have
need to top deck a strike, more or less.
Yeah, but not only that, that would put me in a situation that I can't go multiple Mayhem Tigers, but I have to go multiple Spike Bouncers. But the Spike Bouncer are easy to guard, and you had the big hand. So if you had the Counterblast or a grade 3, I think that I would have lost. I don't know.
We don't know. We
Yeah, we
can
don't
go with a bunch of hyperbole and say, well, if I had this, if you drove into both your crits, I was still dead. So
Oh yeah, you did a no pass on my GBA. And his damage checks were horrible. I think
Yeah,
he
I
got
didn't-
1 trigger.
1 trigger and I was like 6 damage. 6 damage heal, and I still died. Yeah, 6 damage heal, and I still died too. And I just needed like maybe 1 more defensive trigger to survive, or at least to force him in a different attack route. Would have left me with 1 card in hand maybe, and maybe I can squeak out a fairy charm turn, but that would not give me the win because then I would need to do it with like two boosters, which would have attacked for like 35k a piece, but I would still not have, I don't know. I don't think
I
that
had
would
like
have done
maybe I had 5 damage.
Yeah.
So even if you attack me with the Vanguard, I have no hand. So
But that's like a whole bunch of like hoping and wishing that what could have probably happened and never did. But I had fun. I had a lot of fun.
yeah, me too. I had a great tournament. Again, the French community
Was very accepting.
very accepting. It's very welcoming. I mean, they had even like free drinks and free food for people who came to the tournament. The side event was very good. It was huge. We had almost the same amount of players. I think about 60 players in the side event. To be exact, 58. Yeah, 58. And they had a lot of goodies when you go into the side event, like promos, deck boxes. We also had the Vanguard mobile game. You could also play it there.
I think Solom did make a video about it actually, so you can actually take a look at it on the channel.
Also, I think different fight did it also as well.
In a different fight, you see the actual game.
Yeah.
Some he only talks about what his experience was. A different fight shows the actual gameplay.
And if you're French, you can also watch the one from Johnathan because he did one in.
And also the funny thing about the different fight video is he miswrited into he wanted to write Blaster Blade, but he misclicked and rewrite a grade 1 on top of his grade 1 and almost died because of that.
Yeah, Vanguard is a lot of fun. I think even if you are new to the game, give it a chance and try to find people. Like just play at home, like have food and drinks and just have fun and play it. And that's actually what we do the most. We don't play a lot of, myself, I don't play a lot of competitive events. Like this year I went only to 2, 1 standard, 1 premium because I was hoping to top both, but yeah.
Because he's expecting that much of spikes.
But spike standard still needs some work.
I personally didn't play this season because I thought the season was actually pretty bad, but when I played the event itself, I was actually very hyped. When I played the white card tournament here, when Solom won that, I was very happy that I played it too because then it actually gave me some feedback on how my deck was supposed to be played.
That was the weirdest bite tournament I ever had, man. We played 3 rounds for Swiss and then top 4.
Yeah.
I won 1, lost 1, got the bite, and I was like, alright, I'm out. Yeah, you're top 4. Wait, what the hell happened here?
No, because I think the rest, everybody else went like X and 2 or something.
Yeah, it was so weird. I was almost like, yeah, guys, I'm gonna get some food. No, you need to play.
Yeah.
But I'm hungry.
No, because everybody else, I think we had a very low amount of players and stuff, and so during with the point system, we used the point system, and usually went off the ties that you had against other players. So it was fun. It was hella fun. I think we did. Hey guys, it was really fun. And then I played against Solom when he was playing Grand Blue, and he got his bike cards from us. I wasn't really planning to go to the regional, the national that was being held in London because of it. So even if I did win, I don't think I would have.
Nancy wasn't announced at that point, so it was.
No, it was just London.
It was just that.
Yeah, it was just London then, and I wasn't planning to go to that one. And I don't. Yeah, I'm not gonna go too far into that one.
It's okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to go too deep into that one. More or less, we'll just keep it at that. I don't think I would have gone, but it was fun playing against that type of matchups, playing against people who came from all across Europe to play in Nancy, and I had a whole blast.
I think it was a pleasant surprise for all of us for how this tournament was playing out. I mean, you just went in with experience. All right, I want to play Spike Rush. I want to showcase how it works. But you haven't played any NOK, so it was how is this going to be? For me, it was like, all right, I want 1 win, and then I'm happy and I don't care.
Because you have some bad matchups with having defensive triggers from other clans and stuff, since you didn't get your support yet. And
every trigger, 10k trigger was like a death sentence.
Exactly, because then that's like a whole, almost 2 columns and a half of just not hitting, or like your opponent doing like, okay, well, 15k block for 2 to pass, I guess.
Or no pass, GG.
Yeah, good luck, have fun. And it was cool and very awesome to see that you still pushed on and you still got you 4 wins. So it was like, okay.
5-2.
5-2. Yeah, it was 5-2.
I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, that's the thing. We had like, you went 6-1, right?
Yep.
And then we had Tochkazi, Glacier went 5-2, you went 5-2, Wesley with Pilmu went 5-2.
I think all of us went.
Wesley went 6-1
5-2.
Sven
went 5-2. A lot of us did really good.
And I think more or less they were the only ones with the highest ties of getting into top 6.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only problem is we had to face against each other.
Yeah, I needed to fight against Sven and against you. And my only loss was against you and the NOK
Chris
player.
also got 5-2.
No, 5-2 because he was facing against Wesley in the last round.
Ah, I see. If he won that match, he would have had to face me. I think.
No, Wesley,
no.
it's because Wesley lost only against the second, third, fourth player. And I lost against JJ, that was, I believe, position 4th, 5th. And I lost against the 7th position player, the NOK player from France.
Yeah, right.
So that's why my tiebreakers were just under Wesley, because he was against the better players.
Right, but that's actually it for this video. Again, we had a lot of fun. Also, we went with a huge group, and I think that was our advantage. Like, also coming to that tournament, because some people like JJ, like Erik, if we went like with only 3 or 4 players, maybe they would like say, nah, I don't want to go. But because of that, we had a lot of fun. Also because of the French community. Again, thanks guys for the really good tournament. The judges were good. Everything was done pretty nice. Also, the second day there was like a huge standard tournament with like Swiss and tops, and at the same time the top 8 was played and no mistakes were made. So again,
really well handled.
great.
The only thing that I really want in the future, best of ones, go away.
Yeah, no, best of one.
Yeah, and more premium for God's sake. Give Europe more premium. I mean, only 2 premiums? Why? And I think London is just far for a lot of people, but...
And another important thing is learn how technology works. You cannot double over the PDF file. It doesn't work that way.
Alright guys, so that was Erik from Vanguard Insiders, JJ again, and we will put all of their channels in the description section below, and me, D.boy from Team Crushing the Meta, signing out. Till next time.
Bye guys.